So we'll start off with CWILL BC, which is Children's Writers and Illustrators of BC Society. And today we are very pleased to have author and CWILL president K.A. Wiggins here to tell us a bit more about the organization. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Rhiannon. I'm going to go ahead and share some slides here. And for those who don't know, Rhiannon is also a BC author. She has a fantastic picture book, which is so funny, has such an unexpected twist ending. So if you haven't read it, please check it out. And I'm here to cheerlead, to promote the cause of children's literature in general across BC, and also authors and illustrators of books who live in BC. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit about who those people are. They may or may not be who you're expecting. I think sometimes we don't have the visibility and the awareness of those people. And so just as a quick self-introduction, I am the current leader of CWILL BC. We're actually celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. So Kit Pearson, who some of you might know, very prolific and well-recognized author, started us up 30 years ago. And it's just remarkable, some of the amazing people that have been a part of CWILL over the years. You might have seen Dan Barrell's fantastic works. This is one of his recent award winners. Callie George is one of ours who has some charming and incredibly well-known titles. We've got Lee Edward Fody's Spell Sweeper has been a huge hit. So sometimes I think there's this perception in Canada, we don't brag about ourselves as much as certain other countries who shall not be named at the moment. And so we maybe aren't aware of the incredible skill and talent and hardworking people that we have around here. Well, we just don't connect the dots and realize that there is this quality of children's literature right here at home that you have access to right in your own backyards. We do have about 160 members across BC right now. So while we're not able to capture absolutely everyone in the province, we do have the majority. And I want to stress that for you, how many incredible children's writers and illustrators are across the province. We do include legacy, traditionally published, and indie or self-publishing authors, and we have a specific process that those people go through so that we can assess that their work is to a professional standard. And so we want to make sure that the breadth of voices that are represented across the province and in children's literature is all that it can be. And so I think that's particularly relevant for schools, for libraries, for readers of children's literature, that we're able to bring those voices in. Some of what I want to make sure we do here today is highlight the resources, because we have traditionally offered a number of fantastic free resources, and we've really invested in increasing those to make it as easy and accessible as possible for all of you. And part of why I'm so passionate about this is because I had incredible experiences as a child and as a sort of emerging author. This is a wonderfully hand-colored, I know it's a little bit hard to see over the camera, book that was made for me in my 2nd or 4th grade classroom by a teacher that I had who was a published author. And what he would do is he would write a little book every year with his class that had every student's name in it, and every student had a role in the story. And so it's just kind of, it's photocopied. So this is not one of his published books. It was just made for us. And so I actually had, the wonderful experience of hand coloring that cover. It's just stapled together. But what that did for me was, at quite a young age, 2nd or 4th grade, get to have this experience of seeing authors up front, up close and personal, that these are real people. They're accessible, they're hyper-local. This was someone that I saw, every weekday throughout the school year. And so, I probably didn't internalize that at that age, but it just kind of sunk in as like, this is a thing that real people do. It's not just a thing that happens off in some distant New York or London sort of place, is that you can do this, you can make books, you can be a person who makes books. And then another experience that I really value and treasure, and so this is Rancor, which you may or may not be familiar with, by James McCann, who actually is a CWILL past president. And it was published in the earlier mid 2000s, so just on the heels of kind of the Twilight craze. And I happened to come across it when I was, I think I was just graduating, or no, I was just early on in my career at UBC, so just a college student hitting Vancouver. And it was really meaningful, really transformative for me to encounter a paranormal sort of speculative fiction written by a Vancouver author. And it just kind of tweaked this, like, oh, this is what I want to be doing. And there was someone here doing it. And so, you know, I maybe was kind of aware of like, oh, there might be a literary community in Vancouver, but that's like poets and journalists and important literary people. And it was like, no, this is YA fiction, this is speculative fiction, this is paranormal, this is like the trendy fun stuff that I'm reading that I want to be writing. And it made it, again, feel accessible. And so I really personally had kind of these turning point experiences of encountering local and having it be transformative. And so I am a big champion of that, of having kids and teens encounter local books and local authors. And so this is our website, quillbc.org. Has a ton of resources right on it. If you join our newsletter, I promise we won't spam you. That goes out twice a year with just a news roundup from our members, BC Book News. We also highlight events throughout the year that come up, the occasional giveaway, that kind of thing. And then we have this directory that highlights all of the members who are open to speaking, being part of bookings. Another fantastic resource we've really invested in building and maintaining constantly is our Pinterest board. And we've built this kind of like a bookshop or a bookshelf model, a different subboard for every year so that you can find new releases just by looking at the covers, browsing, sort by age range, board books, picture books, find everything that's been shortlisted, nominated, won an award, find books that are set in BC, set in Canada, that kind of thing, graphic novels versus poetry, books in French language. Additional resources, and I can't take you to all of the links, but if you follow them through, you can find all our books that are set in BC, specifically tagged by what settings in BC. We have another thing, Sheets, which is like Excel, has tabs for every release year so that you can find all of the new and upcoming for pre-order BC books with their ISBNs, pre-order links, and the authors and everyone involved and what topics. So we're trying to make it as easy. If you want to incorporate BC books, these are all the resources we can pull together. And again, we're trying to keep them as updated as early as possible. So this is a fantastic format in Pinterest. For visual browsing, if you're trying to get someone resources for collections, maybe the Sheets format is better because it's a little bit earlier. It's before a cover is even available, that kind of thing. I did also want to just whip through highlighting a few of our newest members. So this is just a handful of the people that have joined in the last couple of years. I think sometimes we have perceptions about who BC authors and illustrators are, maybe based on who you've seen, and you may not be aware of the incredible breadth of who BC authors and illustrators are. Emily Seo has been doing incredible things. Her book, The Science of Boys, really popped off last year. Carl Kim and Julie, incredibly exciting work in virtual reality literacy. We've got Kuljinder in Abbotsford, where I am right now. Really exciting book last year. My name is Sajan Singh, and she's going to have another release next year. So the growing careers of some of these authors are really exciting to see, but we do need your help to help them build those careers, because there are legacy authors that are often American that are getting the big marketing pushes, you know, Twilight getting the remake, Harry Potter getting the remake, Lord of the Rings getting remake after remake after remake. And so we're not necessarily seeing those big pushes coming behind Canadian talent, regional talent, small presses, but getting that that visibility and the books in front of kids so that they have a chance to fall in love with these stories. That can happen more at a grassroots level, and that can happen in home communities where those stories are going to resonate because they're authentic, because they're telling stories that connect, because that's where those stories are from in a lot of cases. When we talk about how do you if you want to be highlighting BC books for kids, what are some of the ways that that can happen? Shout out to my Fraser Valley Regional Library people in the crowd, my home library system. They do a great job tagging the local, I think there's a local author sticker, Canadian author sticker. Some networks even have specific events that highlight those. So you might have a way of displaying or tagging that. There may be specific events that you do through the year. BC Book Day, I Read Canadian Day. You might have permanent displays or rotating displays, things like that. Book walks, a local author here, shout out to my Clearbrook Library people, had their book featured at Outdoor Book Walk for Family Day. There are bigger, kind of more work to put on events that can be really, really fun, can really engage the community, but they do take a lot more effort. So something like a book fair, you kind of do need enough of a community in your area to pull people in. So that might be harder to do if you're in a smaller remote community. But if you've got, multiple authors or illustrators in the area that can come out, they might be able to do something like that. We have seen collaborations, so Word Vancouver, which traditionally was in Vancouver, just connected with the Surrey Library System last year. This upcoming September, they're going to be dedicated Children's Day of the festival in their main library location. So it may be possible to connect with schools or local festivals to collaborate on book events. Author visits and readings are, of course, wonderful. Of course, we would love to see those, but there are so many other ways you can explore integration and highlighting BC books. So bringing in panels where you have multiple people involved, things like camps or workshops or authors in residence, where it's over a longer span of time that engages the community. Sometimes what happens with authors or illustrators of books for kids is we don't see the opportunity to connect them with adults as well. A really successful program that CWILL has been doing with Vancouver Public Library for years now is we do a panel every, I believe, February. We have 5 or 6 members who speak about their experience getting into publishing. And that's been standing room only when it's done in person. We had it go viral when it was online over Zoom during the first years of the pandemic, because there are so many adults that want to hear about these topics. A lot of potential for bringing people in to engage with the library by taking advantage of your local talent. Unfortunately, I can't make available to you a map that shows which local authors and illustrators are in your home community because of privacy, freedom of information. I personally do have access to that map. Feel free to get in touch and I can tell you who to check in with in your home community. And then again, thinking outside of author readings, there's a lot of things you can do in terms of engaging people in multidisciplinary practices. So we have people that are doing Dungeons and Dragons creative storytelling works, and somebody who does music as part of her. So she's performing music and storytelling at the same time, and lots of crafts and creative approaches. So why bother? Why bring in? And this is talking now more about again, these activities where authors or illustrators are coming in to do events more than just books in collections, which is a related but slightly different topic. I always feel funny about this first bullet point as an author, but there is something about the excitement or the star power of having an event and bringing in somebody that non-authors and non-illustrators sort of see as a celebrity. So as an author, that sounds strange to say, but it's real. And if you are participating in those events, or you're participating in something like World Read Aloud Day, you see that in action. You see the excitement around these sorts of events. At the same time, you have that kind of high level, but there's also the bringing it down to earth and making these people, be elevated. These are people that make books, and that's amazing and magical, and not something that happens every day, but at the same time it could be. It's something that real people do. It's not something that only happens in New York and London, and we want those stories to be told at the local level, to continue to be told in BC and across BC. And so we're seeing these hyper-regional stories get told that are expressive of the entire breadth of who our children and families and people in BC are, and all of the different communities across BC. And there's the potential of engaging community members who would not necessarily have a reason to be in the library otherwise, who might come out to support these events, even if they wouldn't otherwise be there. is also kind of the PR potential, especially smaller community newspapers are more likely to engage with an actual event. Again, reach out to me if you're interested in connecting with people who are hyper local to you, because bonus, there's no travel cost involved in getting them there. I know Zoom has kind of changed the picture on that, and that's fantastic. But we've all seen the same kind of 5 people getting zoomed in from across the country. And meanwhile, you have somebody down the road wondering why no one ever calls them. So maybe they're available for something. There's also, and this is moving back into the collections territory, the advantage of having, as Canadians, our books in public libraries is there's a financial element to it. There's something called public lending right in Canada, and we potentially get a check from the government every year if our books are in circulation. And so we love having kids reading those books. That's why we wrote them. But we also benefit from it. And we don't just need to sell books to the public. If we have books in the library, we're just as happy with that. It's not either or for us. This is getting into inside baseball now, but the publishing industry has been rough. We're seeing a lot of people experimenting with alternate models, looking into independent publishing, because traditional publishing is not serving them well financially. And we've all had recession fears and the rest of it. And so they're looking for ways to make their dreams and careers sustainable. And so part of CWILL's role has been to advocate on behalf of our authors and illustrators and to help them connect with readers and institutions and try to find a path forward for them so that we don't just have them all leaving because it's not possible for them to stay. So we're going to continue doing that work and trying to find audiences for the incredible BC books that our members are inspired to write. Let me leave you with this. We've made the link to these slides available, so you'll be able to find all these links and contact information. Thanks again, Rhiannon, for the opportunity to join and share this with all of you today.